Now we move to present simple. Present simple. The present tense is the base form of the verb. The present tense is the base form of the verb. I work in London. I work in London. The verb in the sentence is work. I work in London. The present tense is the base form of the verb work. I work in London. But with the third person singular, she, he, or it, we add an s to the verb. But with the third person singular, she, he, it, we add an s to the verb. She works in London. She works in London. An x has been added to the word work, which makes it works. She works in London. She works in London. Present simple question. Present simple question. Now let's look at these questions below. Do you play the piano? This is a present simple question. You're actually asking someone beside you, someone in front of you, a question. So it means that the question you're asking is a present simple question. The question you're asking currently is a present simple question. Do you play the piano? Where do you live? Where do you live? It's a present simple question. Does Jack play football? Does Jack play football? That's a present simple question. Now let's move on. We use do and does with question words like where, what, and when. We use do and does with question words like where, what, and when. So anywhere you come across where, what, and when, we use do or does with it. Now let's look at the sample below, the sentences below. Where do Angela and Rachel live? Where do Angela and Rachel live? We say where, and do, we use do with where. Where do Angela and Rachel live? What does Angela do? What does Angela do? So we use does with what. When does Rachel usually get up? When does Rachel usually get up? We use does with when. When does Rachel usually get up? Now, I said question that has with where, what, and when. We use do and does with it. Now let's move on. But question with who often does use do or does. But question with who often doesn't use do or does. But question with do often don't use do or does. Who lives in London? Who lives in London? We're actually using the question who, but we are not using do nor does with it. Who lives in London? Do we use do or does with it? No. Who lives in London? Who plays football at the weekend? Who plays football at the weekend? So we are using who here, and we using who. We do not attach do or does with it. So we say who plays football at the weekend? Who works at Bagada General Hospital? Who works at Bagada General Hospital? When we use who here, we do not add do nor does with it. So we say who works at Bagada General Hospital? Who lives in London? Who plays football at the weekend? Who works at Bagada General Hospital? Now this is what I want you to get. Question that has where, what, when. We do use do and does with it. But when we make use of who, we don't often use do nor does with it. When you make use of who, you don't use do or does with that who. But when you make use of where, what, and when, you use do does with that question. Are you getting me now? Okay, let's move